Yeah. Back in the days like Cushion, everybody knew the effort I put in. Some of them said I couldn't. I can't tell you my history, you know. I can't tell you why. People always say, like, you have a white nose. I'm like, what does a white nose mean? I'm the definition of a tuntane. I'm not a conscious guy. I'm not a philosopher. I'm not like anything hectic. I'm a musician, you know, and yeah, from there, I kind of understand everything else. Not where I'm going. I'm merely shoving, but to get the kutane. I don't have a proper settlement, you know, like amongst the Shangaan people, like, no, you don't speak the language. Amongst the Tswana guys, like, what kind of Tswana has a surname like Tsambo? Like, amongst the Zulu kids, like, what Jabulani doesn't know Zulu? Like, I'm just being bashed around, you know, type of thing. When you see me coming near Boss Run, Jabba classic like Air Force One, always standing on the wind, never seen like an ad for a gun. We are every day going into the unknowns, like, you know, going into your mother's like dressing table. Like, you know what's in there, but you don't really know what's in there. Yeah, guys, this show is going to show me stuff that I don't know, obviously. You know, I'm going to stand by what I find out in the next 6 days.
Jabulani Tsambo, better known to his many fans as Hip Hop Pantsola, lives in Johannesburg with his fiancée and son.
What's happening is we're trying to put together a song with a very prominent international artist, and it's really like the beginning of my career catapulting globally.
But he has a nagging doubt. There's something in his past that's holding him back. In the past 9 years, Jabulani has become one of the most recognized entertainers in South Africa. He's earned numerous national and African music awards and has recorded 6 albums. As a hip-hop artist, he's known and loved for his creative use of words, in English and Setswana. It's part of his unique, exuberant personal style.
Even the style of music that I choose to do, like it's motswako, you know, and I fell in love with the concept of motswako. And motswako is a Tswana word meaning mixture, and it's the whole concept of bringing styles, music, influences together, cultures and whatnot.
Jabulani's music is an eclectic mix. So is his family. On his mother's side runs the blood of Tswana royalty, as well as of Xhosa commoners, an unusual blend. On his father's side, Jabulani has Zulu and Shangaan ancestry. There are 2 things his relatives on both sides do share though. They are well educated and Christian. And that for Jabulani could well be his problem.
We've forgotten ourselves. We don't really know what it's about to be African.
Jabulani was brought up in a Western way. Like his family, he has a distinctly contemporary outlook and identity.
Yeah, this is it. This is the beginning of a revolution where now we are decolonizing ourselves. You know, we are now going back to what we believe in. I sat down with the family before we did this whole interview thing, and they all agreed. And in them all agreeing, we are all agreeing, you know, to partake in this.
With the backing of his family, Jabulani is ready to start his journey to reconnect with his past.
We all want to go out and, you know, start looking through old Bibles and photo albums, but it's really time consuming. It's like going through like stacks of CDs or LPs, you know, you just want to go through an iPod, you know. So this is kind of my iPod, you know, per se. And yeah, you know, it's a couple of days, 5 or 6 days, but it's a couple of days that could really change forever. Yeah. The first stop, I think it just makes sense to go back to my womb. And that's my mom, you know, and, you know, I'm just blessed that she's still alive to give me her insight. Like, my mom's my best friend in life, you know. Next to her comes my fiancé. Hey, please, it's been a long day, like,
Louisa Tsambo is a lecturer at the University of the North. She's a well-respected Setswana linguist, writer and poet. Louisa also spent her youth documenting the family with her video camera.
Okay.
In fact, that's a stompy, kids in Tombi, Basatan. Me got married to Mokhatle. She was very young, 17 years, I'm telling you. That's where she lost Xhosa a little bit because now let's go Phuke.
Like many others, Stompie's family left their homes in the late 1800s in the then Transkei and came to Rustenburg looking for work on the mines. Instead, they landed up as farm workers on a German settlement. It was into this life that their granddaughter, Stompie, was born. In the 20s, her father moved the family to Marikana, where he got work as a train conductor. This is where Stompie was when she met her future husband, Sekete Mokhatle.
The wedding dress, like these are guys, because they look so Western, you know, like.
No, you know what? Almost every people who married around this time, because 1949 here. 1949, you can see the half moon. Yes, these were the heads. And then Papa Kesekete.
Yes,
Sekete Mokhatle was a great-grandson of a renowned Tswana king, Mokhatle of the Bafokeng tribe. They were a Tswana people believed to have moved down from Central Africa to the Rustenburg area over the course of several centuries. Sekete may have been born a prince, but Stompie and her 4 children weren't treated as royalty. Stompie and Sekete were divorced in 1962. After the divorce, Louisa went to live with her grandmother, Alice. Stompie started brewing beer to survive. She started to drink heavily. People say it was to blot out the shame of her divorce and her growing poverty. She died a pauper and an alcoholic. Life was hard for the young Louisa, but she buried herself in her work and soon developed a love for language.
I liked language very much. All 3 of them, in fact. Setswana, English, and Afrikaans. Got everything. Now, all my life, ke berekela go godisa puo ya Setswana. So ne go sna gore re ka bua puo e nngwe mo gae. And besides, se ke se ratang ka Kgosi Mokhatle sa se dirileng. Ene se se re etsang gore batho ba Bafokeng ba nne very proud ka Kgosi Mokhatle le ka puso ya gagwe. Go gore ha ba bua ka thuto, education, ba re tle ka Kgosi Mokhatle. Ha ba bua ka Christianity, e tle ka Kgosi Mokhatle. Le kgolagano ga ge le missionaries tsa Lutheran Church. That's why how ka tsna go ke Lutero tla bona ditshwantsho sa madi ka mote ga ke Lutero.
But le ga ma
After meet a
Gogo dinene. It was kind of weird, you know, asking my mom some questions that I want to find out, because, you know, I kind of felt like I'm putting on the spot. You know, there's some things that need to be left unsaid, you know, but hopefully by going to the first clue, which is the Lutheran Church, we'll get more info on what I'm really trying to get into.
Jabulani has come to the home of the Bafokeng, Phokeng village. A branch of his grandfather's family still heads it. In the mid-1800s, Jabulani's great-great-great-grandfather, Chief Mokgatle, invited Lutheran missionaries to Phokeng. By doing so, Mokgatle literally shaped the destiny of the Bafokeng. With the missionaries came formal education and Christianity. Jabulani has always worried that growing up in a Christian household means he's lost his connection to his African roots.
I had problems, with dreams and stuff like that. And a friend of mine just said to me, hey man, your ancestors are just trying to communicate with you. So in order to be introduced to them, you need to have a ceremony, It was unacceptable in my family. All I've known is Jesus since I've grown up, and God. We don't really know what it's about to be African. We just know a Bible and it's great, but our grandfathers, stories and whatnot, they can't really be all in vain. There must be some wisdom in that.
Jabulani has come to the Lutheran Church to meet Reverend Musimane. They've kept baptism records here since 1866. But there's something other than records troubling Jabulani.
So nakanya ke gore lo tsene ba go tse ba di dira tsene le gore batsadi ba bone ba di rutile ne go tile ba ska tlhola ba di dira kgotsa kgang ne le yang gore ke tlhaloganye gore dio tsa setso a di bonela gore ha se dio tsa bo Kriste kgotsa yang go kone potso ne ke batla go itse sentle
di missionaries tsa rona ga batla go gasa lefoko la modimo mo gongwe nga se gore kere totally bana ba re dio tse rena le tsone re di latle because before batla ne re dumela mo modimong ka ntla gore ne re itse gore dithapelo tsa go di utlwagale o tshwantse o rapele badimo then badimo ba isa dithapelo tsa go modimong ne so bone ga batla mo go rona thuto ba tlileng mo go rona ka yone ke gore re ka nna ra rapela directly to modimo ra se ka tla re romeletsa badimo
through ngwana gage
Jesu Kriste
ke feel like ke ba direle seng go ga ke tsore ke ba direle eng na for nna khanya badimo ne se khanya gore jo kopale teng ke nne mohumi kopale ga ke ba rapelle ke motho wa no ke mo rapellang khanya ka fela nne gore ke batla go ba itse ka batla go connecta le bona
wa bona rena le di record tsa go tloga 1906 to 1933 ke ba fudugileng rena la 1905 to 1927 ke a kolobetso le a manyalo le a tlhomiso le ha o tsore mama ga go bonoleng o ro kolobetso leng ra straight to the record ra go tare lebella ko teng
so go gore kereke ke ne le library ya nako tsele
even gompieno ja
le gompieno ne
Jabulani's grandfather's full name was Sekete Mpane Mokgatle, born in 1917. If there's a record of his birth or baptism, this is where it will be.
Here is only English names. Di record tsa rona tsa bo 18 something. Ga re itse gore motho o belogileng. Re bona ela gore wa bona o betse gore kwa di 20 tsa August ngwaga next.
They can't find any record. Jabulani is beginning to wonder just how far back his family's Christian faith goes. But then, Reverend Musimane does find something. Details of Jabulani's great-grandfather, Sekete Johannes Mokgatle.
Se ke se compilweng ke moruti o mo moruti bama, ne? A dira a re direla di tori tsa rona bokutshwane ka mokgwa di missionary di tleng ka teng mo bakweneng.
The booklet documents the early days of the Lutheran Church in Phokeng. It even lists the first Christian converts.
Moruti Phenzwane o na kolebetsa malapa, kolebetso ya ntlha e diragetse ka di 16 tsa kgwedi ya bo 6 1867 go kolebeditswe bagolo ba le bane jalo le jalo le Sekete le mosadi wa gagwe o ka ipalla go a go tlase
ke batla bukae moruti ko pa go tshwara ka letsogo ntirile motho gompieno ke go letsa moruti ke go bala buke e sentle fela ke iketlile ke letse moruti ke mutlo gore a re le Ruben Mokgatle ke bala ka ene then gape maybe ka go botsolosa gape mo sengemeng.
Thank you.
Thank you. No. How say I did what? Yeah.
Thank you, Baton.
Not sure, man. to walk in here and find out that my grandfather's father was perhaps the first to be baptized. People saw him and doing it, perhaps, and they were like, okay, if Sekete could do it, then maybe I can, you know. So for me, it's, and for it to be documented that him and his wife were one of the first to be baptized and 4 kids and whatnot, that's, I don't know, man, that's, it's actually choking, yeah, yeah.
Now that he knows something more about his grandfather Sekete, Jabulani is eager to find out about the great Kgosi Mokgale, his great-grandfather. He knows that Kgosi Mokgale was very revered, but he wants to know why. So he's come to the Phokeng Civic Center to meet Sue Cook. She's the chief researcher at the Royal Bafokeng Nation's offices in Phokeng.
The Bafokeng, as we know this community today, is part of a much broader community of people who migrated to this area sometime in the 1500s, where things really became different for the Bafokeng, where the history of this community diverged, was in the period of Kgosi Mokgale. What he did was, in addition to bringing the missionaries to establish formal schooling, was he made friends with Paul Kruger, who had a farm nearby on Buchenhoutfontein. This was just in the aftermath of the Zulu Wars. And he really wanted people to have a sense of security, a sense of place, a sense of long-term established community ties. So they advised him that maybe owning the land in the traditional sense wasn't enough, that they needed to own it in a Western paper sense. So he thought about how to do that. This was right around the 1860s. As you know, diamonds were discovered in Kimberley in 1867, which presented him an opportunity. So he sent these mipato, these regiments of men, to Kimberley to mine diamonds, and then he established a fund with their earnings, not all of their earnings, but each of them had to put, I think, £5 into a kitty that he used to acquire the title deeds to the farms that Bafokeng were living on at that time. Now, he could not have known at that time, there's no way, unless he had inside information from the ancestors, that there was platinum underground. Once they discovered platinum here in 1929, of course, a whole series of events took place where people tried to dispossess the Bafokeng of their land, including the homeland government that you spoke about, including the apartheid government, including the state post-1994. There have been tussles over who owns the rights to the minerals underground. This land is privately owned by the Bafokeng. Now, what that has meant cannot be overestimated. I mean, the income stream that has evolved out of the Bafokeng ownership of this land brings us up to today, where the community's net asset value is around 23 billion rand. This is a relatively small community. That is a serious chunk of change when you want to do things like upgrade the schools, make the clinics world-class, make the roads safe to drive on, make the villages well lit so that you mitigate crime. I mean, the ability to sort of improve the living environment for people here collectively through the income stream from the platinum has set the Bafokeng in a completely different category from the surrounding communities and other traditionally governed communities in South Africa. And it all goes back to Kgosi Mokgale, which is why, even though he was not the first Bafokeng Kgosi, we sort of see him as the father of the nation.
Like, oh, wow, yeah. I'm just so revved up. She's giving me so much information. I'm sweating, baby, I'm sweating. Ah. You know, I think I'm going through like a mental orgasm right now, you know. I think right now all that's left is to perhaps go and find out now the maternal side of my mother, you know, just to go find out about Kugostombi. I mean, for her to even marry into this family, like what what was it like then, you know? Like, I mean, I've seen pictures of her when she was young. She was very beautiful. Did she get chosen because of her beauty? Was she already knowledgeable about the Motse Wamona? We're just gonna go find out, you know. My mother's aunt, Kugostombi's sister, Maskosi. Eish, maske, when I go to Gidimez, Gore, is Gostombi Kalekins got like with the Hang of Gostombi Kesa, it's a horror. Ngamusimula yang.
Okay. Stompi o ne a tsena sekolo ko Wonderkop.
Okay.
A fitlha ka nako tseo di ne di bitswa bo standard 6.
Okay.
Ke ge ntate Sekete a mmona a monyana.
Okay. Yeah. So nele mothontsinyana go Stompi.
Stompi e ne le mosetsana o montle thata. E ne le leblomo la mogare. Stompi ke mo a bonweng ke teachere ebile teachere na e tlhaga kwa kgakala kwa Phokeng. A monyala Stompi o ne a ratwa ke batho.
Then something went wrong. After the divorce, the royal Bafokeng wanted nothing further to do with her or her family, and no one's willing to say why.
Jaanong tate ena o ne a dira mo South African Railways. Jaaka go bona seporo se.
Makhosi is happy to show Jabulani and her grandchildren the Rustenburg station. This is where her father used to work, but it's starting to look as if she too is trying to dodge direct questions about Stompie.
You know, it's all great that, yeah, WHP is also part of the Bafokeng people, yay. But my grandmother wasn't, you know, and she died not, and she still isn't. Her grave is unmarked. They have no claim to her. You know, I for me, am satisfied with that. I am of relation to the pharaoh, you know, but I am a product of a pauper, you know, and that is, I think, the backbone of who I am today. Oh yeah. No, my thirst is somewhat quenched, but not quenched enough. I'm still very hungry to know more. And I've known what I needed to know about my mother's side, both paternally and maternally. Now, it's now on like finding out about my dad's side. You know, I just know enough to like tell my immediate family. You know, your father was born in Mafeking. His father was born in Soweto, and his father was born, I think, in Mozambique. That's all I know. You know. But beyond that, I can't really say much, you know.
Jabulani's grandfather passed away last year, so he's off to Brits to meet with his grandfather's brother, Joseph Tsambo, to find out what he knows about his father's family.
Who was my dad's dad, or my late grandfather, who passed away last year. So Kulu's brother, he's the oldest brother that we're going to now. And I've always visited it. Actually, I remember it being like felt, you know, like it was a farm. So it'll be interesting to see what it looks like now.
He wants to know what drove his great-grandfather. Why did he come to South Africa? How did he get there? Jabulani last saw Mkhulu 10 years ago.
The last time I was here, I remember I was 14 years old. It was like a huge family affair. We had a lot of family members here. We were all parked here. There were Kumbis from Joburg. We were from Rustenburg. Like, that's the last time I was here, and it looks still exactly the same way. Still smells exactly the same way. He still came to open the gate the same way he does. I could cry just now. Like, Janum,
You're welcome.
come on, man. Long time.
Yeah,
Long time, cool. Like, wow. Yo. All right. I went to seat 56. Hey, but cool, yeah. Mina bengifuna ukwazi the history of Tsambo. Like I know what is Pume Mozambique. Kwanyambani is a 1903, I think. But bengifuna ukuthi ungichazele ukuthi like
thina bakwaTsambo siphuma eNyarimi.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, mawusuka eNyarimi uya eNyambane.
Yes, ngiyezwela eNyambane.
Yeah, abaTshopi ke bona baseNyarimi. Lapha eNyarimi.
Yeah.
Indaba yabo Tsambo. Mawufika khona uthola graves. Tsambo.
So my impression was always that Abu Tsambo came here to be miners and stuff.
Yeah. What my figure waba seBoksburg.
Okay.
eBoksburg wakuse mine wasebenza khona. Le mine igama layo yayibizwa ukuthi Night Central.
Okay.
District yaga Jamestown. It was 1908.
Joseph tells Jabulani about his great-grandfather. James Tsambo arrived in South Africa in 1901 and found work on the mines in Boksburg. Here, he founded a church called the African Catholic Church and met his second wife, Bomagazi Menzi, a Xhosa woman from the Cape Colony. Together, they had 13 children. One of them was Jabulani's grandfather.
You know, Mkhulu, the reason why, for me, I can't help but smile is because, growing up in Mafikeng, bekhuluma isiTswana, ekhaya ubaba bekhuluma isiZulu.
Correct.
So, but igama lami isiZulu, isibongo sami Shangani. So,
Not the Shangan.
so Tsambo is not Shangani.
Mtshopi. Amatshopi ababafuna amanyambane. So wena umtshopi.
It's an astounding revelation.
In a way, if this was a relay race, he's just giving me the baton to go on to another runner. I just feel like I'm a swan, I just found out that today I belong to a family of swans. I'm not the duck that everyone thought I was. So, yeah, today's great.
Jabulani also has another clue. So the next stop is Boksburg, east of Johannesburg, where his great-grandfather James worked. But Night Central no longer appears on any map. Jabulani is hoping that Peter Wood and Pam Beck can help him. Peter is a researcher at the Boksburg Historical Association.
I've always known that my family was originally from Mozambique many years ago. And my great-great-grandfather came to South Africa during the whole mine gold rush,
In that time, around about 1895, up to 50% of the miners did come from Mozambique.
Oh, wow.
Because they seemed to have exhausted, the local people. When the mine started, around about 1886, there were probably 5,000 people living in Gauteng at the time. And they just didn't have enough people to run the mine because they needed around about 100,000 people to work on the mines by 1900. And they found a lot of those people from Mozambique.
Did they all commute here in one train, or did they come in drips and drabs?
The mines were, well, to put it bluntly, too cheap to pay. There was a train running from Mozambique from 1895. So yes, the mines could have paid to bring the people from the border by train, but they didn't. The records we've seen all say that the miners actually walked. It must have been pretty tough at the time. In the mines, they didn't have much in the way of uniforms or protective equipment at all. This is 1893, and there you can see the basically hardly got any clothes. This was later, and you can see that they do have clothes, but they don't have boots, they don't have shoes, they don't have safety helmets. So it would have been very dangerous here. I mean, if you have a rock fall and you haven't got a safety helmet, you could be seriously injured.
Like, wow, this is actually shocking.
James Tsambo arrived in Boksburg on foot with probably little more than the clothes on his back and a blanket. His journey would have taken 3 months. Night Central no longer exists, but Peter has managed to find the sketch. He's also told Jabulani how to find the place where the mine once stood.
I've scaled this place from top to bottom, from left to right, looking for any ounce of old history that the night mines used to exist, and there is no way, you know. So we noticed this old foundation, like it's the only remaining foundation here. It makes sense why it's like something from that old, because this very rock, it's definitely like, you know, the only thing left. This is like the last relic that shows that, you know, my grandfather actually used to, my great-grandfather used to work here, you know. Now I'm definitely more pumped than ever to go into Mozambique, you know, and to really find out what's up. When he did say he's leaving, how did he leave? Did they say goodbye to him getting into a train? Or did he just, you know, someone put on his sneakers and say, okay, I'll check you guys out when I come back, you know? So, yeah, I'm more ready than ever to head out into Mozambique and check out what nature has in store for us. For the first time, I'm about to go and see the family in Mozambique. We kind of know, like, you know, what Mr. Tsambo Mutonara like came for. We saw the mines, you know, the conditions of the mines. So one can't help but wonder if it was, you know, perhaps as bad where he's from. You know, he was coming to seek for greener pastures, or it was just beyond that. He just wanted to just come over to South Africa, period, you know. I come here representing the clan of Tsambo back home, you know. So I don't speak on my behalf. I can't say I, because, you know, it's my grandfather's, you know, wish that I be here. It's my great-grandfather's wishes, the ancestors. Hence, it's a spiritual mission that I'm here. It's a very beautiful place. The people are friendly. Immediately, I'm seeing resemblances of my family. I'm already seeing people who look like my little sister. You know, I'm seeing, like, I'm feeling some form of belonging. I'm about to meet a family member who's gonna help me out. I think I see him actually. Beautiful place. Yo, Baba.
Yo, Tom.
Yo, Baba.
How's it going, Tom?
How's it going, Baba?
How's it going?
Yo, Baba.
Yeah,
Ngiyabonga, Baba. Mina ngujabu, Baba. Yo, Baba. Ngiphume emafikeni umntana Robert.
Robert.
Yo, Baba. Yo, Baba.
Okay, nami America Tsambo.
All right.
Umntwana wakaJeke.
Okay.
wakaJames lo.
All right.
When he set off for South Africa, James had already fathered Jack, Americo's father. He and Jabulani's grandfather are half-brothers. That makes Americo Jabulani's uncle. From the town of Inarimbe, Americo takes Jabulani to his great-grandfather's village. Here, everybody is a Tsambo.
As young as I am, I have the great task of coming here and finding out the legacy of Tsambo. Like
In the early 19th century, long before James left home, when Mozambique was still a colony, the Portuguese settlers divided up the land into prazo, large agricultural estates. The men of the Chopi tribe, among others, worked the fields. They were also forced to pay tax either in the form of labor or produce. It was this system that condemned the Tsambos to lifelong poverty.
during the time Portuguese bafika, like go no go senyega, like
Kwa senyega ka lebaka le fine ke re ke nako ye a motho a sebetsa ka thata. O tswa ka 5 hoseng o fikela 7 mantsibuya. Ya tseba se konteri se etswa ka matsogo ka lekribal. Wow, ba bolala bana taba. A hore ke ka fumana tšhelete
After liberation came the Civil War. The people suffered. But since that ended, life has gotten better here. Even so, many villagers like Americo have moved to Maputo. Their loved ones expect to see them only during the festive season. It would have been like that for James's family. At Christmas, they would have waited. After their liberation, they thought he'd show up. Then came the closure of the mines, Mandela's release, elections in South Africa, but he never returned.
Hi, Basel. Ba tletsa lapa le. Ba tswa mane a bona ka re thabanyana ke sefate se se mane o fita makokonatsi ye. Ba tswa mo ke mo re fikele teng o re tswa ka Mbangusi.
okay. After the war, yeah.
O mo re bitswa ke re Tsambo.
Okay.
Yeah. Into re ba ke ya Setjopi music wa Setjopi. Re ka fumana nyarimi mo a o.
Okay, alright.
O mane nyarimi ke ka bonisa ke re ke botsele batho ba ke re ke mane. Ke mo boleletse ke re hai rena re tsamanyele hantle. Re fitlele maobane mane. A ra gona o fitlha. Re fika gona njwana. Ma bata o fitlha.
It's still pretty much the same. They still, follow the true Jopi way of life, the way they build their houses, they prepare their food, even make their soap. It's still all pretty much the same,
Chopi people were traditionally successful subsistence farmers. Over time, misfortune and famine has forced many of them into the cities. The Civil War also dealt a crippling blow. But slowly their culture is beginning to revive.
This for many years has been and still is and will continue to be like Tsambo land, and Tsambo needs to be self-sufficient. Tsambo needs to be family orientated. Tsambo needs to go to church, everywhere that Tsambo is, there needs to be a little kind of a sanctuary, where he does his little praying.
Oh
yeah.
Ka Setjopi.
Alright. Di no gape mona.
Tse masha tse sengata haholo. Kwa o tsong ke minyoka ka enga ho kana.
Wa mo re ndo hinga theledela molenga mo hinga thelela masi.
Tsambo must build, from what I'm getting here, and yeah, that's exactly what I'm getting from here. Yeah.
Life today carries on much as it did before James left.
Ke le ke tlo le fa mphontate. Yeah. Ke 20. Wa itse ha bona 21 di dingata. So le Tsambo wa bona Tsambo ali 1 fela kwa le batre bangata from Kotsongo thing. I've just handed them over the statue of the baboon, which is an animal I feel closely related to, because also with a baboon, when they leave their habitat, they always remember where they were born, So even if it's many years later, a baboon troop will always come back. So it's a symbolic gift that I've just given them. So yeah, I'm glad they received it well.
Jabulani is treading the path his great-grandfather walked, but he can only speculate as to why James traded in one kind of oppression for another.
He left behind his family, and from what I understood, it was a case of, he won't stand for slavery. I mean, what the Portuguese brought here was some form of slavery. He went from the frying pan to the fire, So for me, like, there's that anger. Okay. what he's left behind, I think, is something that we'll still digest, you know, as time comes, and we'll only start understanding it later.
After he left, his family never saw James again. But today, his grandson has returned home on his behalf. Jabulani's journey is almost over.
I bumped into those kids playing on the beach. It was very symbolic, that whole scene, you know. For all I knew, these were Chopi kids. I wanted to be engrossed in Mozambican culture. It turned from being entertained to being schooled, you know. I felt like I was in class, you know, like these guys are actually now giving me a step-by-step lesson, you know, of what I've been missing, what my family has missed all along. I feel like this chapter has come to a close, you know. It's now time to start a new book as a Job. Straight from Zabala to Nyarimbe, where we did forced labor mahala, our hearts burned like mahala, and so we walked on by to Gauteng da Khakala, re batla matikinyana, and re bereka khuting re sa kenya le khitinyana. Ba bangwe ba itsinyana gore ko re tswang re baya mo releng re bikinyana. Then Buruti came down like pula. Tate Mogolo James a decided to dula bana le bana bagola bana le bana kgotsa hip hop pantsola wa le chopi, freestyling wearing le dori, doing my thing, whitey everybody my story bona. I'm doing it here for glory. Jabba man, rekile le baya now can no si bon. I'm not claiming Bohosi. I'm doing my thing, Jabba man, from here will be bossy. Ish. My uncles told me the whole damn story, but now I'm doing here, my man. Now I got the glory. Bona, Jabba man, the tona, Tsambo rules and that day. That's my family line, baby. It sounded messy, but yeah, expected in the album, I think. I'll probably clean it up and make it sound nice. Yeah, I'm out.
Back in South Africa, Jabulani plans to visit his great-grandfather's grave. It's in Suikerbosrand, near Heidelberg, where James settled with Bomakazi Memeza, his South African wife. Jabulani has asked his father, Robert Tsambo, and other family members to join him. For all of them, there is an echo of the distant past here. Just as land featured prominently in the story of his mother's ancestors, so it does in the life of his father's family right now. Robert is busy with an official land claim for the place where James Tsambo is buried, a place they may one day call home.
I'm here to come and introduce my son to his grandfather. This is exactly where he's buried. But I think it's the major thing that he has done for us was for us to come back here and reclaim what was rightfully ours. In the near future, there's not going to be a single Tsambo child, whether skilled or unskilled, who is not going to be having a job. It's up to you guys. You are supposed now to start to take over these things. Your sons and daughters, if ever you're still going to be reproducing, you'll have to bring them here. This is your route. Umazaza, Umbiya, Usmanga, Umchachu Tobela.
I thought it's a great gesture, you know, to give him some of Mozambique since he left and never returned, you know. So even though this is now our new heritage place, this is now our new home, Mozambique is our roots, you know. For me, this is my graduation. This is my renewal. So yeah, it's a great feeling. It feels like, you know, the same way as circumcision to Xhosa boys, you know. On top of that, I'm a proud African who knows his ancestry and who can tell other people about, you know, my family and where we're from, and it'll carry on and on and on and on for all the days to come. I do talk a lot, sorry. I do apologize.